Okay, we're live. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm delighted to be hosting this session, the first webinar we've done this year. And it's a really great one. It's about a subject around digital design leaders and why the BIM manager role may be evolving into this digital design leader role. And I'm delighted with the people we've got to join us on this session today, some real leaders in the industry who have supported me loads over my career and are doing some exceptional things in practice. I'm just going to run up through very quickly what the structure of the session. So we're going to do welcomes with everyone, introductions with everyone here. We are recording this. It's going out live on YouTube and LinkedIn and on Instagram. And I'm just going to set that going, actually. But it will be available on YouTube afterwards if you want to watch it, and on LinkedIn as well. If you do have questions, then you can put them into the comment section, either on LinkedIn or in YouTube. And we will answer those towards the end of the session. If there is something that's super relevant for that moment, then I'll try and jump in and ask the panel while we're going. But yeah, we're going to have a Q&A session towards the end. So this whole session is around how BIM management, 10 years ago was slightly different to what it is maybe now, and how the industry has moved forward with AI. We've had COVID, we've had new ways of working, new technology. And this is changing the way that the role of digital leads and BIM managers are in the industry. So we wanted an opportunity to kind of share that. And what we've created with Arcol is a white paper around the digital design lead, what that looks like. We've got case studies in there from Mairéad and from Martin as well. And it should be a good guide for practice leaders and for existing BIM managers to see where their role may evolve and how that can help in practice in the future. So I'm delighted that Arcol have supported us in creating this white paper resource, and we will be sharing the link to that after the main discussion session, just before the Q&A, so that people can start to access that and download it and give us their feedback on it. So that's what we're going to be doing. So I wanted to ask the guests to just introduce themselves to start with. Mairéad, I'm going to start with you. If you could just give us your name, role, where you work, and what your role is like today.
Big question. Hi, everyone. It's quite weird because you can't see any of the audience. I'm just going to, you're speaking into the infinity. But hi, everyone. Those who are online, I shall catch up after. My name is Mairéad Gallagher Morgan. I am a Woman in BIM Regional Lead for London. I'm also part of the Grimshaw Design Technology Leadership. My role at Grimshaw is BIM Lead for Europe and the Middle East. I have had a squiggly career, is one way to put it, and have came from the traditional kind of architecture training and background. And I have been in BIM now for 12 years, but in leadership over 5 to 7. So quite a while. I'm very, very passionate about the industry in general, and I'm passionate about mentoring and supporting others on their career. That's a little bit about me.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Okay, Martin, I'll ask you to go next.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, nice to be speaking to you all. So I'm Martin Wilding. Technically, my job title is Head of BIM. I work at competitors from Fox or KPF, global architecture firm headquartered in New York. Day to day, I lead our design technology efforts in our London office, our second biggest office, and one of our main design offices with New York. Joined the firm coming on 13 years ago now as the BIM and CAD guy in the IT team, and over the years kind of have evolved that into kind of the role it is today, kind of largely BIM focused, but also kind of leading our design technology team here in the office, covering computation, BIM, Viz, AI, and everything sort of in that kind of sphere. And sort of spoken around the world on sort of kind of promoting BIM, and courtesy of Mairéad's influence also a Women in BIM mentor here as well.
Amazing. Yes, that's great. It's interesting. Yeah, so I'm a Women in BIM mentor as well. It's fascinating. So yeah, we're doing well. Mike, would you want to tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah. Great to meet you, everyone. I'm Mike. I lead product at Arcol. As Alistair mentioned, we sponsored the white paper. If anyone doesn't know what we are, we're an early stage design tool. I'll leave it there. You can check out the rest at arcol.io. Excited for this conversation. Being an early stage design tool, we're interested in this transformation and how we can help tools and firms, level up their experiences for clients and internally. And I came from architecture originally, so I am always excited to talk to people in the architecture space and kind of see what I remember and don't remember from when I was doing it personally.
Excellent, thank you. And Leo, my co-host, introduce yourself.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, hi all. I'm Leo from Architecture PLB. I'm the IT manager. So yeah, I just manage everything IT related. So lots of governance and compliance stuff and figuring out hyperconvergence and cloud and all that good stuff. So yeah, it's busy time.
Excellent. Okay, so when we spoke with Arcol, we talked about this idea about the BIM manager role, what that looked like, and how, 10 years ago I was a RICS registered BIM manager, and the role has changed and evolved over time. And we were talking about this, which is why we put together this white paper to try and explore what that looks like and how it's working, and create a resource that's useful for the whole industry. And that's primarily what I'm trying to do through, AD, through AC Tech Futures. The work that we've done here is about trying to share as much as possible and say, actually, the industry is changing. The technology that's available to us is changing, and we're looking very much today about the roles and how that works in a day-to-day manner for people. And with Mairéad and Martin, in big practices with very complex needs, large complex projects, we thought they're really excellent examples of that, showing that role evolution. So I'm going to start off just with a question, and I don't mind who answers, but just when did you personally realize that the BIM manager label may no longer match the work that you're doing? And I'll leave that up to you to jump in.
I'll jump in. I think for me, based on my Women in BIM experience, so I've been a mentor for 6 or 7 years, quite since the initial conception of the Women in BIM mentoring scheme. And I think that for me personally, some of the key kind of awareness came from my mentoring with people from various sizes of organizations. So there was some ladies that I was mentoring that were BIM coordinators, and they were doing the full digital strategy for a small organization. And then there was others that were in a BIM management role as a BIM manager, and they were in larger organizations or mid-size really. And basically they had a crazy amount of responsibility for the role that they were doing. Some of them had just come out of university, some of them hadn't actually worked in the industry as an architect before, and they were very much thrown in at the deep end. And then when I went to work with larger organizations of various sizes, my own journey, I kind of realized, there's a lot of different variations of this role depending on the size of the organization and the types of projects that the organization did. So whether they were engineer-led, contractor-led, consultant-based, or architecture-led. So I think through the Women in BIM network and being exposed to women from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life, and all different capabilities and experience, it really showed the broad scope of what this role is and was. And I think fundamentally, I'll let Martin go ahead, but fundamentally, since for me in the last 3 to 4 years, I think it's even changed even more with the new technologies coming in, the disruption from BIM 2.0, AI, and how we are now delivering data as a contractual deliverable on projects. So that's added another level of complexity, but we'll get into that further later on. Martin.
Yeah, from my side, I think, like I said, I've been here almost 13 years now, and it's natural that things kind of evolve in that time. You'd hope if you spend that length of time in any one company, you'd naturally progress. Like I said, I started out as the support guy, the one BIM guy for that office in the IT team, and then after a few years, we kind of, as BIM was growing, so kind of 11, 12 years ago, it was on a number of our projects. I needed extra pair of hands in the office, so we started to kind of recruit and build a BIM team. And it was we had quite a widespread global digital practice team, as we called it then, across the office. But the past few years, we've kind of been through a few kind of strategic organizational changes, kind of really brought the team together. All our different sort of rebranded as design technology, really brought all our disciplines and efforts a lot closer together. 4 or 5 years ago, I was kind of working under the guidance of our applied research director, the sort of kind of de facto technology lead for the London office. We've mentioned kind of the importance of mentoring. He was the guy that sort of kind of pushed me, and our CIO in New York as well, and kind of encouraged me to take on more of a leadership role, and the sort of the BIM team's responsibility grew. That sort of kind of, I naturally grew with that. And then when our applied research director moved on to another role, I sort of felt I was ready to kind of take on leadership for the London office, take on a wider remit beyond BIM. And that's when kind of maybe some of the computational and BIS efforts that had fallen under Cobus, who many of you may have come across in the industry, and now NVIDIA, he'd looked after those areas. They sort of fell under my wider remit, and kind of the team that looked after that in the office sort of became part of my wider team, sort of working with our global director in New York to kind of support me, and kind of I report directly to him. But yeah, sort of all of a sudden I sort of went from kind of doing BEPs every day to kind of like leading a small team here that kind of looked after a whole range of topics or disciplines. So it's been a fun transition, and sort of step by step kind of grew the role and sort of kind of widened out what I'll look at.
Cool. Oh, you're muted, Alistair, just so you know.
That's embarrassing, isn't it?
Well, let's go.
In terms of like the responsibilities, so I've got a question here about responsibilities that were never part of your traditional BIM management role. So I just wondered if you've got any thoughts about what that would look like to help the audience kind of say, well, I'm doing, BIM management. BIM execution plans is a really good example, Martin. 10 years ago, it was all BEPs and EIRs and stuff. And what's crept into your role now that's different from then?
Yeah, it's like you say, historically, it was kind of, there's always been some strategic aspect. It was kind of day to day. It was helping people in Revit. It was, why is this file crashed? Kind of what's happening here? Looking after training, getting people up to speed, implementing our BIM policy. There's always been some like kind of wider aspect there in terms of kind of updating standards, kind of looking a bit more strategically, kind of how do we actually use BIM, looking at the coordination side of things. But yeah, sort of kind of beyond that, and sort of it's switched, and these days you're more likely to find me in Excel than in Revit. It's don't want to kind of let anyone off becoming a sort of a design technology leader, but the focus of the role day to day does shift. I do still kind of try and keep my hand in with Revit, but it's as much about kind of looking strategically at how we use technology, trying to make sure we've got sort of buy-in for our policy, trying to make sure our policy is still in line with what our clients expect. So that's probably about a third of the role. A third of the role is still day-to-day software management, kind of working with the IT team on deployments, working with my team just to make sure everything's tested, troubleshooting happens. And then the other third is kind of the real management day-to-day side. So it's kind of working with colleagues as team members, working on their personal development journeys, making sure we push them, we grow the team skill set, we kind of make sure everyone in the team has their own path forward. We sort of kind of something we really implemented over the past 2 or 3 years globally, is to make sure that kind of when you join a practice, like if you come in and the BIM manager's been there for 10 years, it's like, great, I've got to wait for him before I can sort of do anything else. So we kind of really tried to introduce this progression path within the office. So it's kind of working with the team, just, like I say, helping them to grow so we can push the office forward and kind of, sort of, and link that all links back to the kind of the wider strategy, and sort of a personnel recruitment kind of all that side of things is a big part of the job now.
Yeah. On that, so very similar to what Martin says. I think it's something that I do a lot in the Women in BIM network is kind of the raise awareness that the standardization of roles isn't the same across all organizations. So actually in our BIM coordinators are highly skilled, like they really are. They're some of the best I've ever worked with. Shout out to the BIM coordinators in our team. But they really are. They're great. Like I think they're fantastic. Some of the stuff we give them a lot of freedom to like test, do dashboarding, test software, figure out what works for them, work with the computational team. So I think it's something that's probably really good to highlight on this call is Grimshaw's approach to design technology is quite unique. We have 2 leaders within the EMEA region. So I look after the BIM predominantly kind of side of things, anything that's digital delivery. And then Ivana, my counterpart, looks after environmental performance, computational design, apps development, urban computation, and like various other things that's in and around that space. And then together we deliver the design technology strategy for the Europe and Middle East region. Mm-hmm. So we have predominantly project BIM managers, which are very much project specific, and they do a lot of mentoring and managing the coordinators. So they're very much like given that management opportunity from day one. They are showing how to, as Martin said, encourage growth, encourage professional development, especially in and around like project specific needs. And then we would have studio BIM managers or BIM leads that then would take on some of the strategy for that particular studio. In the role that I am, it's more strategic and it's across the London studio, Dubai studio and Paris studio. So you're across multiple regions and multiple studios. So in that case, it is about the project technology, how technology is used for specifically digital project delivery, information management, that kind of strategy side of things of how we fundamentally deliver our contractual obligations to the client for the best value that we can do it. And then where can we bring value add with the likes of environmental performance, extended reality, VR, XR, like where can we bring our clients and give them the best value for money. So it's a really, really holistic approach to design technology that is projects, people, and technology, which very much, as Alistair and Martin kind of know me outside of this space, is very much true to my personal kind of goals and what drives me as an individual. So I think for the people on the call, I would say that there's not a one size fits all. Martin and I are in large organizations. If you're in a mid-level organization, you could be a BIM manager that's doing a lot more strategy. You could be a coordinator that's doing strategy. So any experience that you get will be good for your career because, as we all know, this role is a broad scope and it's constantly evolving, even more like day by day. Anyway, so that's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Mike, I was wondering what your kind of thoughts are, because obviously you're more US based.
Yeah.
I know that KPF and Grimshaw are international practices, but I'm just wondering what your perspective from the US side of what that looks like and what your experience is.
Yeah. Very similar to a lot of what has been said. I mean, even so, we are just about 5 years old, I think, as a company now, something like that. And so when we started, there were a lot of conversations with digital strategy personnel at companies, but a lot rarer today. That's pretty much all the conversations. And so even there, I think Mairéad said with AI and new technologies coming, that's kind of necessitated that the role just has changed. And so very similar in terms of what we see and who we talk to. The conversations have gone from, hey, our tool is a better tool, like don't use these tools, use this tool, to this tool is going to change the way you engage with your team, with your stakeholders. That's why this matters for better experience for everyone on the team. If you make these decisions earlier, you save yourself pain later. It's way more conversations around why the tool does what it does, not just kind of feature for feature. Here's how it works.
And the kind of next shift on for that, following on that quite nicely, is about how important are data workflows and systems thinking compared to modeling skills. So I keep going back to like 10, 15 years ago. It was all about Revit. Can you do Revit? Then you were like highly in demand. Because that was the tool of choice, and BIM equals Revit. And obviously that sort of conversation was kind of started. But now with kind of data and workflows, it's a different way of thinking. And Martin, you hosted a really excellent event last year, which was about showing workflows within your office at KPF. How important is that kind of understanding data and workflows as part of that leadership role you have?
First off, I'll be in trouble because I forgot to plug the user group which ran that event.
Design Technology User Group.
Come on. More events coming soon. But yeah, so it's and it's sort of I've given a couple of similar talks myself recently as well. That it's this move where, like you say, kind of when I joined the practice, it was you were probably an AutoCAD user that knew Rhino. As a new project came on that had Revit requirements, you'd go on a 3-day training course out of the office. You'd learn all the stuff you learned on the first day. You'd come back to practice and put into action. The second day, you'd probably sort of like remember bits of it as a prompt. Anything you did on the third day, you're probably not going to use till 6 months down the line. But like I say, it was okay. You're moving from your current role. We're going to add Revit to that. What we've seen, like I say as well, we do a lot of large, complex projects, quite a lot of complex geometry. Naturally, as a practice, we are heavy Rhino users. That's our sort of main design tool. Luckily, we've managed to largely eradicate AutoCAD from our workflows. Appreciate it's got a big role in the industry, but it's kind of, for us, we just wanted to focus on running Rhino and Revit in parallel. So more is not about teaching kind of pure Revit anymore. It's about teaching kind of decision points, like why might you use one tool over the other, trying to encourage all our staff to learn both tools, kind of run them in parallel. And it's as much about the kind of the interoperability tools that we encourage learning now, as things like Rhino inside Revit, BIM, Speckle. All those tools that kind of pull these two together. And obviously looking beyond that, we've got tools like Arcol and a number of others that we're looking at as well that sort of maybe kind of feed in at the beginning of that journey and then how that transitions into our workflow. So we've very much kind of moved away from the idea of a tech stack, which probably for the first 10 years of my job was exactly the same. It was AutoCAD, it was Revit, it was Rhino, and it was 3ds Max. And 3ds Max kind of dropped off at Inkscape, filled that gap with that for that quick instant rendering. Now it's about managing what we call the tech web. It's kind of a whole number of tools that revolve around Rhino and Revit. It's how they talk to each other. It's about the AI tools that sit on top of that to kind of enhance rendering, visualization, about looking at how that's going to affect how we use Revit and Rhino in the future. It's about emerging tools like D5. It's kind of really picked up as a kind of our primary render tool. It's looking at, hey, this is a place for Unreal Engine in the office. Where does that fit? So it's still Revit centric. It's still kind of like we're heavy Rhino users. That's not changed, and I can't see that changing for a long time. But it's how do we show people the right tool to use at the right time? And it's kind of not sure if it's a similar kind of approach at Grimshaw and Mairéad.
Yeah, it is. So much so that I'm like, the audience is getting a very unusual viewpoint from a very, it's very, because the same kind of projects, a lot of infrastructure, a lot of complex aviation projects, and like one of our really cool projects at the moment is Eden Workham, which is quite cool, and Paddington Over the Station Development, which is pretty much elements of design for manufacturers. So there's a lot of complexity around, I'm still calling it a tech stack. I haven't moved on to the tech web yet, but
I'm trying to get it to take off.
I don't know. I'll try. I'll jump on the bandwagon. But there is like a lot of work that we're doing around looking at alternative tools and looking to see what's out there and how that'll fit the various sectors in which we work, because we do a lot of work as well in sport. So in my personal opinion, I've spoke about this before, I do think that there will be particular applications that are used that fit the needs of particular sectors quite well. Grimshaw's we're very lucky in the fact that we work across like a couple of or several sectors. But if I do think as we progress, like if you're working in education or estate development or that kind of space, any tools that are very, very much about AI integration with data will be very valuable. Whereas if you're doing more master planning, the tools that are early site design will be a bit more valuable. So I do think, as you say, it's kind of going to be a bit more holistic to the organization about what fits their needs. Yet, sorry, Alistair, I forgot exactly the question you'd asked.
Yeah, that's all fine. We're just exploring things. It's really interesting. And so I'm just touching on what you're talking about, Martin, there is, and this is a slightly provocative question in a way, but what skills do you now rely on that architects are rarely trained for? And I'd be curious to know the answer to this, because with all this new software, new technology, should universities be training people, or should architects be training themselves when they get into practice? I don't know what your thoughts are on it.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. I think, obviously, I know everything always comes back to AI, and I don't kind of want to oversell the point. It's not an AI webinar, but that's the interesting debate at the minute. There's, without a doubt, it's going to change how we use, let's say, even Revit and Rhino. In the next few years, certain bits of that will be automated. And it's interesting to see in the academic world, different approaches different universities are taking to AI, kind of saying, you know what, you can't use it at all as part of your coursework, to having whole modules or like degrees and master's programs based around using AI. It's obviously kind of, if you're using AI, it's going to spit out your essay or your thesis. Probably not the right approach. It should obviously be frowned upon. But I'd say without a doubt, it is a core part of how practices work, and that's from small businesses who can like extend their remit and their capability and their productivity using AI, to larger firms that can naturally use it to augment their processes. So it's looking for people that kind of to come into the industry, to come into our practice from other practices that have that critical understanding of not just AI tools, but kind of any tools that are emerging in the market, but particularly on the AI front, knowing when it's appropriate to use them, knowing how to interact with them, understanding what a few people term like prompt craft. So it's how do you talk, how do you interact with these different engines to give you the output that you need. There's this natural evolution that we sort of, our interactions with software is becoming more conversational. You ask the systems a question, and it sort of gives you a response. So it's kind of understanding how to get the best out of that. We had a session in the office last week with one of the team from D5 that kind of from Xfigura, one of the kind of the AI tools that we're using at the minute, and that was kind of focused on, okay, right, how do you talk to kind of different parts of that tool to get the best results? So we know we can teach someone Revit. We can know people like, once you're in the 3D world, you can generally pick up Rhino. People are generally open to picking up new rendering tools, but where universities and traditional architecture courses teach critical thinking towards space, towards design, towards quality, I feel we need to kind of mirror that on the AI front. So it's kind of like, say, is that this is the appropriate tool to use? Do I know how to work with this tool, whether it's automating documentation in the future, whether it's kind of upscaling a render, whether it's kind of creating a concept from scratch? It's how do I get the most out of that system? How do I actually benefit from the efficiency? So it's a new kind of critical thinking that I think is an essential skill in the industry going forward.
Yeah, there's a load of stuff kind of similar to what Martin said, but I still think that there's what I'm seeing, I think, through more so Women in BIM Mentor, because I'm exposed through the regional lead. I'm exposed to a lot more new people starting in the industry. I think, from personal opinion, I think that something I would be really pushing is soft skills. I think this is the things that we really need to concentrate. Definitely critical thinking, soft skills, still understanding how you translate your thoughts to a client, whether that's a sketch, because you still need to be able to do the fundamentals of our skill set as to why we trained as architects to begin with. And I think the other thing is like data governance, understanding where your data is going, understanding data risks for organization, what your role is as an individual, even as a graduate or an apprentice. If you're putting information into ChatGPT outside your enterprise accounts, how that data is lost, where could you as an individual be at risk? I think they're the things that universities should be, especially like we all did probably risk and compliance kind of, where can an architect get sued? And like the actual, I remember doing it in undergrad, it was kind of like, these are what not to do. And I think it would be really good from a design technology point of view and digital delivery point of view of things to be aware of in this new industry that we live in that are high risk, things that you should be learning as a fundamental in terms of soft skills, understanding how to be a team player online, understanding how to interact with people through Teams channels, understanding how to navigate your thoughts through various technology forms. They're the things that I think that universities, totally happy to do lecturing and webinars and this. But I think these are the things that would be really, really good, because these are the things, even as a mum, I'm trying to teach my child, still draw with a pen. But then if you want to draw on the iPad after, you've still got your core skills. So it's like, that's, but I think you have a different viewpoint as a mum, because you can see how quickly some of the soft skills that we've all grown up with are getting lost.
Yeah, I think that's it's an interesting thing. So in the role of a digital design leader, I think those soft skills are really important, because you've got the interface between working with your teams, but also communicating to the management, directors, senior associates, and potentially communicating externally as well to clients. Maybe you have to do a presentation about things. So the range of skills for a digital design lead need to be quite broad, I think, and understanding how that communication piece works. Yeah, that wasn't really a question. That's just me saying stuff.
But yeah, as Martin and I will know, as you get further, it does come back to this BIM manager to digital design leader. You are more client facing. You will have client workshops. You will be selling what your organization can do in terms of digital capabilities to your clients. They want data. They want to use that data for either smart buildings, digital twins, or operations. So the role has transitioned because of the needs of the client changing in the last couple of years. I'll stop. That's kind of a viewpoint.
I'll just add in a thing here, Alistair, which is I think an interesting point to be made is like, this talk is very specifically about digital leadership, BIM management, that kind of thing. But because of the age we live in, we keep talking about AI, but just generally in architecture, the amount of new tools coming available and stuff like that. We're in an age where every single role across the board, like self-advocacy and self-training is kind of a must. Like, things are moving way too fast. The old, like, you learn Revit in school, and then you learn technical things from somebody who's been at the firm for a long time, and you're working your way up. Like, that's way too slow now. And so even at any point of where you're at, or even as a student, advocating for, I need to learn this, and on your own time, figuring out what's the landscape look like, I think is kind of non-optional at this point.
I think that people coming into the industry as well, so I'm going to say younger people, graduates who have maybe just finished their university education and coming into the industry, they are going to be like, why are we working like this? This is really weird. I've been using technology all my life, and now I need to manually draw a CAD diagram or detail. And I imagine some of them are quite confused about this. So the impact that they'll have on the way that we do things, I think, will be, they're going to push upwards to say, look, we need to work more effectively. I mean, do you find that in practice? I don't know if you see that on a day-to-day basis, that rather than top down, it's bottom up, people kind of saying, look, we need to reassess how we work.
I think it's kind of both. And I think that maybe in the organization sizes of the ones that Martin and I work in, it is very much framework driven. And I think that's the education that needs to come back for universities as well. You will have a certain level of expertise or capabilities that you can share with your client, but at the end of the day, they will have a framework, or they'll, all being well, someone has already written their digital documentation that we will follow. So that's more, I think, specific to the size of the organizations Martin and I would work in. Wouldn't you agree, Martin?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's totally comes from both directions, and it's maybe a little odd that it depends on the situation. It's like, we certainly past like 10 years ago, we struggled to hire anyone that knew Revit kind of straight out of university. Even from a lot of other big practices, we found we were having to train everyone up. And then more and more we were getting kind of people that came in that said, we should be using Revit on this project, and kind of pushing the team, the project leadership, to kind of implement Revit earlier and earlier. With the AI tools, we found that kind of the bigger initial uptake was coming at sort of like director level, kind of senior sort of like project leadership, office leadership. And that's, like I say, it's the people that knew what to get out of it. They sort of knew what to achieve. They had years of industry experience, and they had to kind of propagate these tools through their teams, so they kind of encourage their teams and, like I said, mentor them as well. And kind of, so yeah, it's from different areas, different kind of themes, different topics. It's, yeah, it gets pushed from different sides, and that's why sort of like Mairéad and I and others sort of sit in the middle. Okay, right, let's make this happen. Let's make sure these skills are propagated around the office. Let's make sure we're kind of approaching it in the right way.
Leo, I'm going to throw you in here because you have a different perspective to everyone else. Because as an IT manager, you're straddling a slightly different field in a way. I don't know what your views are around BIM managers, digital design leads, and where the IT manager may sit within that.
Yeah, I was going to probably talk a little bit about the adoption of the software, the technology stack, or the technology web. It was kind of, I think it sounds like for the larger companies where you do have these digital design leads, they're the people that are kind of pushing this forward and helping the company adopt these new tools. But for the smaller practices, there's a real constraint with familiarity in tooling, and as we've sort of discussed, how new people come into the practice and they have new skills and they've learned new things and they try and adopt that, but it's very difficult for that to take hold. And I just wondered if there was like any tips or experiences that you guys have come across that you could maybe help the smaller practices, kind of when new products come on like Arcol and you're like, look, we need to start using this, but how do we deal with that challenge? How can we start adopting this new tech? Have you come across those kind of hurdles before, or is this just something that bigger practices, that digital design leaders, they just don't have that because they have a dedicated resource?
No, we because we work across like the sizes, and the different locations are various sizes. So our Paris office may be 20 to 30 people, I think, and Dubai is like 10. So it depends. It's definitely been something that we've experienced. Again, when it comes to the different types of sectors that we work in, something that I took from another practice that I worked in was having a presentation that was a kickoff that showed the technology stack that worked that lessons learned from previous projects, technology that worked really well in that previous project, and where efficiencies could be brought in, and then doing a bit of a kickoff or a presentation. And it's a live document that's maintained with Miro boards or with other projects. We use Asana with other project specific documentation, but it's directly linked to design technology. It's basically a thought board that's ongoing that everybody can keep coming back to. That's not a BIM execution plan or an EIR that totally overwhelms everybody. It's like very visual. There's one of them that has 20 or 30 GIFs in it. So it's like, it's very fun. and it's shared and it's maintained and it's updated and it's used for onboarding. So I think it's basically having someone's brain downloaded into a document that others can keep referencing as and when they need it. Now, Miro is probably the best way because it's more interactive, but we've just started doing presentations and then using both the Miro and the presentations. But we're looking at other tools at the moment that is a bit more collaborative. So that's something that I would say, and lessons learned are worth the weight in gold. So that is something that all through my career, especially having come from a multidisciplinary consultancy background with a project manager, project design management consultancy within it. Yeah, lessons learned, and that onboarding and offboarding of projects. I think it's something that architecturally we don't do great, but the more you do it, the better it is, especially for design technology. And at the rate of technology adoption and change, at the end of the day, we are in change management, whether we want to call it change management or not. But yeah, Martin, you've probably loads to add in this.
I mean, so my journey to this kind of is maybe from a slightly different angle, but it's kind of, I started out my BIM journey doing my part one after doing my architecture degree in a small 10-person local practice in my hometown. Kind of moved back home for your work there. The boss had been told, this was back in like 2002, 2003, the guy that ran the firm, it must have been a good sales guy, but he sold him the idea of Revit. This was kind of just about the time they were only getting bought out by Autodesk then. It was like Revit 4 or something. He sold it like that, but he bought a copy for everyone in the office. And this was a very traditional local practice. Kind of, a couple of the guys still had drawing boards. And I came in as the kind of like the keen young guy, and they were like, can you just work out what we can do with this? There's a couple of the younger architects in the office that kind of like starting to do work, but it's like, can you help make this look like AutoCAD? Can you just explore what it does? So that's like, I didn't realize at the time, but that's how I ended up being sort of like BIM managers, kind of started out in small practice. And in that stage, it was kind of showing by doing it. I was sort of kind of delivering schemes. It's like, oh, let me show you how I can do that in Revit. I generally at the time thought this is the future. Turned out sort of it was part of the future. It's sort of kind of it, certainly for myself. So it's kind of trying to get people on board. But there was a couple of the older guys, kind of like insane amount of technical knowledge about how things fit together. But we're happy just kind of drawing things in AutoCAD. That had been a big change for them a few years earlier. It's like, you've already got me on a computer. Don't ask me to do anything else. I'm happy with sort of like 2D. And then from there, sort of kind of obviously, Janie took me through various practices before I ended up at KPF, kind of a large global company. But it's still, the principles are similar. It's kind of about bringing people on the journey with you. You'll still meet resistance. Just you've got a bigger pool of people to work with. There's still going to be someone in there that's kind of like, no, I like the way of doing things. It's like, I know it's a bit old fashioned, but it works. I know I can get my work out on time. And it's one of the best quotes I've found, and I'm always annoyed that I can never remember who it was, but it was I think it was a prop tech event last year. And they were talking about change management, and it's the way they quoted it was to kind of say, like, you have to sell that outcome. Don't tell people like what you're doing. It's like, right, you have to learn Revit. This is what you're going to learn in Revit. It's why. What is the benefit going to be? It's people aren't necessarily scared of change. They're scared of the unknown. If you can take them on a journey to where they're going, kind of how we're going to get there, what the stages are, break it down a bit, kind of help them through that journey. There'll still be some resistance, but it'll be easier to get the buy-in. Like I say, I wish I could quote the exact person that that mentioned that, but that's the best way I found of thinking about it. It's kind of like, we always talk about implementing Revit, and it's kind of like, right, how are we going to do training? How are we going to do that? But it's kind of, what's the end goal? What we're trying to achieve? How does it affect your role? How does it benefit you? And that applies to kind of like, say, 10 people working in Blackburn, Lancashire, to 150 people or more, kind of even a big office in London, or even some of the kind of the mega global practices that can maybe have thousands of architects around the globe. It's the same problem, just on different scales.
Mike, I just wondered if you wanted to add maybe something at the end here before I introduce the white paper and we do take some questions.
Yeah. I mean, to add on to this question specifically, I mean, our most successful clients are those in which the digital leaders have kind of hard committed. I mean, like if you have a factory that's churning out a product very regularly and consistently and predictably, nobody wants the pain of saying, okay, we're going to slow down the factory temporarily to retool for this next thing to improve our product overall. And so the leadership in these companies have said, basically, like, we are doing this. There will be pain for our project because it's a new tool. That's just inevitably how it goes. But the output, as Martin was saying, will be better. And I mean, every firm did this with Revit. Like, it was painful to do a first Revit project. It's never fun, but it's just better. That's why we moved in that direction. So I think all the new tools are similar. There are better things out there, but it does take the acknowledgement that it'll be a little bit of pain to get there.
Okay, yeah, that's really good. Okay, thank you very much for that. So I just wanted to go into just showing people the white paper, which should be on your screen now. And there is a link to this here. I just need to adjust this a little bit because it's got a timer on it, which isn't helpful. So what we've done with Arcol is to put together a guide to digital design leads and where we think this is an evolution of the BIM manager role. And we've basically put together this kind of document, which is a free download for you to access. And in here, we've got a very sort of top level about what the document's about. So this is very much for practice leads who don't have lots of time just to go, actually, what do I need to know? And this is our kind of summary of, where the BIM manager role is now, the strategic points going forwards, and what that digital design leader role kind of involves. And the discussion today, I think, has touched on some of this already, and there's an awful lot more to go through as well. And this resource is essentially a really good guide. So if you're a BIM manager currently and you're wanting to look to make that step up to a digital design lead that works for a large practice, this should help you, give you some ideas about what that looks like, gives you more context around the industry more widely, why we're thinking about this now, and where the future may be. And it would be great if people would like to access this, download it. It would be great to get your feedback on this. We've got some great case studies in here. So Martin and Mairéad have very kindly answered some questions just to help guide you in more depth about their roles and what that looks like. And also, we've just got some other resources in here to help with the future. So here's Mairéad. So please download this and explore it further. There's obviously a little bit here about BIM 2.0, which I do quite a bit of talking about, and Arcol is one of those tools we see coming into the industry and disrupting essentially static legacy tools like Revit, AutoCAD, and the ones we're talking about with early stage feasibility studies. So there is some information on here. There's also a link in here so that they can show that to you in more depth and more detail, so you can understand how Arcol could fit into your future workflow. We're a big advocate of them here, and I think that the technology that they're bringing to help architects to be more effective is badly needed in a world where we use SketchUp, Excel, InDesign, all separate tools and all manually controlled. So this document is there. It's available for everyone to access now. We've had quite a few questions, so I'm going to throw some of these up on the screen. So let me just grab those here. Right. So, this is quite a nice, neat short one. How do you switch from being an architect to a BIM architect? Or I'm going to kind of change that a little bit to a digital design lead. What's that sort of pathway?
Yeah, I'm going to jump into this because I've been asked this so many times at conferences. It's a longer journey than I think people anticipate. And I think that's one thing I would say is reach out to the Women in BIM mentoring program, which is literally coming on board in the next month. Find yourself someone that's already doing the job that you would like and ask if they'd even spare an hour every 3 months. That would actually be really, really invaluable. Self-learning, as Mike mentioned earlier, this is not a golden ticket. There's a lot of work There's a lot of work. I spent my weekend doing work. My team spent their weekend writing something else for BIM in Leicester tomorrow. Like, you know, there is a lot of hard work. It's not all just shiny webinars, and a lot of self-learning. So if it is something that you're thinking, you also, I think, need to be ready to transition away from architecture into the design technology space or digital design space. And that transition, Aaron Perry will tell you, took me 4 years. So it's not the easiest transition in the world. And it brings a lot of internal conflict sometimes, depending on how much you wanted to be an architect. So a lot of people will agree with this.
Yeah.
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 100%. Everyone that makes that change, I think, in the first few months, you'll find yourself questioning, have I done the right thing? A lot of people kind of miss the design aspect. Like, you're still having to shape and deliver buildings. You still might call yourself an architect, but kind of day to day, you're not as engaged at that kind of designing and developing and creating. You're enabling. All my team here in the office are sort of like what we call lapsed architects. We've all kind of worked as architects before, so kind of choosing to specialize, seeing there's a better way, and just wanting to jump on board promoting it. So it's, as like Mairéad says, it's about that personal drive. It has to be something you want to do. It doesn't just happen naturally. It is a shift in direction that you have to initiate, you have to engage with, and it's about attending events, picking up on wider topics, it's reading forums, it's kind of investing time in learning about other disciplines as well. So kind of the first kind of step is that interoperability, learning multiple tools, kind of understanding the roles tools play. It's about kind of understanding, if you want to kind of move into more BIM management, it's about like enhancing your knowledge of kind of industry standards, being able to advise on that. But yeah, it's all about learning. It's looking for where you gain that knowledge that allows you to step up and push your career further.
Yeah, excellent. So I've got a very long question from Jonathan from Speckle, but I'm going to just paraphrase a little bit out of it. I can't share it because it's so long on the screen. But he's basically asking, how should small and mid-sized practices think about resourcing, you know, digital design leaders in practice? And you know, he's talking about whether it should be a firm level responsibility or carried by a senior individual, and basically from an SMB, SME size of practice, how do they approach this? Because, you know, KPF, Grimshaw, your big practices, you've got the capacity for this, whereas lots of practices which are mid to small size, what should they be doing? How can they approach this?
Yeah, so I answered this recently on a panel in the last couple of years, and I also answered it in the Woman in BIM Christmas drinks. So my view is, I think at the moment there's a lot of people out there that have recently graduated from BIM coordination or have done a master's in BIM or whatever, anything else. I think the fundamental thing is that organizations need experts in the same way you'd hire a consultant for any other expertise that you need. Is invite an expert in. They can come in for a month, they can come in for 6 weeks, they can come in for 2 years, whatever your organization needs, and do an analysis of where you are and what technology you need for your organization in order to bring it forward. A lot of them will do reviews on application stack or anything else. If you do want to hire a resource in, make sure it is someone that comes in with quite substantial experience, that they can bring the knowledge similar to all them years of experience that Martin and I have gained from all the different various sizes of organizations. They can bring it in and they can help write your strategy and drive that forward internally, and then building their team within the organization. Or you can start from the ground up and take it very, very slow. But if you're going to start from the ground up with a coordinator that's just fresh from university, or with apprenticeships that are supporting that coordinator, you need a consultant to guide them. And this is something I'm really, really passionate about. And I think there's so many SMEs and mid-level organizations out there that need to understand this is a complex thing, and there is a lot of profit and loss in your organization associated with this.
One thing just to add is that you won't get anywhere without leadership, buy-in and sponsorship. So yeah, it's about finding that person that brings that knowledge, or if you've got someone internally that's kind of built up that knowledge themselves, like we mentioned in the last question, but you need someone at sort of kind of leadership level in that practice that says, yeah, this is the way we're doing things. That depending on the size of the practice, that might be the same person. It might be a leadership person that takes on the digital leadership role, or it might be a kind of someone on the board, someone in kind of office management that brings someone in to kind of take on that role. But yeah, it's about enabling that person. It's about kind of reinforcing to your office, to your practice, like, yeah, what this person says is what we're doing. So you need, like it says, you need that expert, someone that you trust, someone that you can, they're not talking BS. It's like, yeah, they know what they're talking about. You sort of, they reassure you, and you need that person to say, like, yeah, this is how we're doing things.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, we do a lot of strategy work with architects, myself and Leo, and it's great going into practices and giving them a sort of 5-year strategy and kind of go, this is the route forward, and try to lay all that framework in place for them. So I think, it's about having an approach, a strategy, a plan to say, okay, this is how we're going to implement this.
It's also having the implementation as well, though. So it's all very good having a strategy, but if you have to redo the strategy again every year, it will be very costly.
True.
Anyway, go ahead.
Just so in there as well, so like Alice mentioned, it doesn't have to be, depending on the size of the business, that you employ someone. Obviously, it makes sense to a business our side. I've worked in slightly smaller firms where, again, I've taken on that kind of BIM management role. In my previous role, I was a senior architect working on competitions and BIM lead for kind of a network of 5 offices across the UK. But do consider there's a lot of people out there at the minute that offer that expertise, that come in, that assess your practice, that can help take you on that journey. And that's normally a good starting step. They can help you define what people you need to add to your office to deliver that.
Yeah. Okay, next question. Someone has asked, how do you avoid the digital design leader role becoming a rebranded BIM manager position with more responsibility but no authority? It's a good question.
It is a good question. It kind of feeds on Martin's point from a minute ago. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say exactly that. It's about having that kind of the leadership group, whatever leadership looks like in your office, kind of reinforcing that position. You can be like the most enthusiastic sort of BIM digital design, they take on more and more stuff. But unless it's the company approach, you're just going to sort of like run yourself into the ground. So we're looking at KPF, that we have our technology steering committee. So all our disciplines through our global director feed directly into the board. We put forward our proposals. They might question it, kind of like tweak it a bit to fit our wider strategy, but then we get their buy-in and we say, okay, right, this is the KPF way of doing things. It makes my job so much easier. It makes my identity as a kind of a digital design lead so much easier that we do have those people saying, like, yeah, this is what we've agreed to do. Listen to these people, they know what they're talking about, which is a huge help.
Yeah. Okay, that's really good. Okay, same question from the same person. Given, sorry, I didn't want that on there. I want to say this one. Given different companies and organizations have different roles and responsibilities for the same positions, does the industry need to standardize the roles and update it as a tech innovation and construction role as it grows and develops? Do we want to standardize this? Is that a sensible idea?
I genuinely, again, from Women of BIM experience, it's not really a role that could be standardized. I think it could be standardized as in design side, contractor side, and consultant side.
Yeah.
But yet, you're still going to have nuances even between the design side, construction side, and it's really, really worth, I haven't mentioned it, reading the Women of BIM survey that was done in 2024. And there is currently 91 ways to say what we do, which is very, very worrying. So I jumped on the standardization bandwagon 2 years ago, and I've done a lot of research around it, and I don't know if it can be done, because as soon as you standardize it, it's going to become outdated, because we're in an environment that's constantly evolving.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find a link for that report, but I can't find a direct link to it. So maybe after the session, if you want to drop it in the comments and LinkedIn, or send it to me, and I'll share it. That would be really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike, just draw you in here. What are your thoughts about sort of standardizing the role and what your experience might be?
Yeah, I mean, I maybe have a very different. Well, no, it'd be the same perspective. I mean, standardization, I guess, is great in terms of, from a hiring perspective, you kind of know qualifications and boxes that you want to check. But in practice, I mean, I think the exciting thing about the way that the role is evolving, and there was a question about, more responsibility with no decision power. The exciting bit is that the shift is leading. I would be curious for Mairéad and Martin's perspective on this, but I think there's better engagement across the board between digital strategy and general leadership, because the conversations are now outcome based. It's not how do we distribute our standards better and how do we maintain clean models. And I realize that's oversimplifying what the past was, but I think standardization would be at risk of putting it in a box that it doesn't need to be in, and boxing conversations that could go further without being standardized. So I think as it is, allowing it to evolve and allowing kind of individuals that are passionate about it to push it as far as they want it to go is a good thing.
Yeah, for certain projects, we've done like roles and responsibilities in relation to ISO 19650, which has kind of worked quite well, because everybody kind of knows where they stand, especially with the lead appointed party and different things. So I think even using that as a reference is probably a good starting place, and looking at the Women in BIM survey, which I will share.
Perfect. We are just about an hour here. Martin, are you okay to carry on? Because I know you had a bit of a hard stop. Because
I do need to drop the BIM standards presentation. Yeah, if there's any questions that pop up on LinkedIn, anything else that, if anyone wants to reach out to me directly as well, always happy to chat. But just find me on LinkedIn. Always happy to take any questions.
Yeah, and I can definitely second that, because Martin, I interviewed you as part of my master's thesis in 2017, I think it was. And yeah, you very kindly gave me your time for that. So yeah, really appreciate that. And if people do want to reach out to you, your LinkedIn profile is part of this session on LinkedIn, so they can find you. But yeah, appreciate that. So if you do need to disappear, just jump off whenever you're ready. If everyone are happy to do a couple more questions.
Yeah, 5 or 10 minutes more I can do.
Okay. All right, let's do it. Right, so will technological advancements force more fragmentation of roles or act as a bridge that allows roles to be combined? That's a good question.
Mike, do you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it'll depend, kind of even as it does today, firm by firm, even size of firm. I think what will happen is whatever works best for the firm and the typology they work in and the size they're at will continue to be true. I don't think, like, back to the standardization question, I don't think we should ever lose that there is no one size fits all way of working. And so as a general trend, I could see, and I was actually, if we had time, I was going to ask Mairéad and Martin about the idea of not the role shifting, but kind of like a new role emerging alongside existing roles. But yeah, I don't think it'll be like a great convergence or bifurcation.
No, I think it'll kind of evolve in the same way the BIM manager role evolved. I think that there'll be, I kind of see I've seen chief digital officers pop up in some of the global organizations, especially in architecture, and I think there could be a shift towards that I think will take some time though. So it's kind of the same people, it's the same organizations that were on the ball with BIM managers like 15 years ago that have chief digital officers, and then
Yeah.
I do think that there will be chief data officers in years to come as well. So I do think that because we're in this data kind of having more value phase of life, things will naturally evolve.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we're talking about today, isn't it? BIM managers evolving into digital design lead. 10 years ago, AI wasn't really in the picture for the construction industry, and now it's very firmly there. So in 10 years' time, it will be different again, won't it?
Yeah, I think that there'll be so many roles that didn't exist now that'll be around in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Because the same thing has happened. My husband's a data analyst in data. And he couldn't find a data analyst role when we were looking 11 years ago. And now there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Yeah, so we've seen that shift in data, which the same thing will happen in our field.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've seen that in BIM management, as I said. So this last week, I've obviously been trying to share with BIM managers that we're doing this session so they can learn and be involved. And it was amazing to see the number of BIM managers across different types of organizations. So universities and contractors and architects and designers and, more and more. So that role has expanded very quickly over the last, I'm going to say 12 years since this kind of inception. Okay, so I've got another question here. With the growing importance of data and workflows, can you see BIM data managers becoming a role within digital construction?
I wouldn't call them BIM data managers, but I feel like there'll be data analysts and data. I kind of want to say it's more compliance. So randomly, I've been looking at the actual information management role that sits between IT. Lee, you're probably a really good person to discuss this with. There's an information manager role that's outside project information management that sits between IT, digital delivery, and data governance and compliance. That role, I think, will grow and grow and grow, because at the moment there's a lack of industry knowledge about what an IM does, and some organizations think that IM is the same as doc controller, which is not the case. Whereas an information manager is about data security, cyber security, and that's the next shift that needs to. That's probably a good paper there, Alistair. That's the next shift that needs to happen, is that awareness. That awareness about what exactly an IM is. This was also a conversation in our regional leads Woman in BIM catch-ups, telling you they should be shared, them little catch-ups, because they're very interesting.
Well, I mean, I'd love to do a session actually with Women in BIM, and we could explore some of these things. I think that would be really great. So maybe something to talk about when you've had a bit of a rest from all this stuff. Mike, did you have any thoughts on that one at all?
I think nothing that would be as elegant as Mairéad just put it. So
thank you.
Excellent. Okay, I'm going to do one more question. Is this a question or is that a statement? I think it's a statement. With regard to that, do you think we are moving towards a super specialist model where deep expertise is required, or is the future actually about versatile generalists who can use technology to flex across multiple business functions?
Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I have thoughts.
Yes.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yeah, okay. Do you think we're moving towards a super specialist model where deep expertise is required, or is the future actually about versatile generalists who can use technology to flex across multiple business functions?
So very strong views on this, because I've read quite a lot on this. That is very much like both. So there will be a big shift towards specialisms that currently don't exist in our field. Again, data managers, IM roles, them sort of like the governance thing around data is something, probably because I read so much on it, that I think us as an industry needs to become more aware of, and where our data sits, who owns our data, how it's used, how it's manipulated. So I feel like there's going to be a lot more specialists in the world of data, cybersecurity, understanding like cybersecurity, especially when we're owning other people's information. like if you're working in joint ventures or you're working in large complex projects, with the generalist view comes back to we all are in an innovation role, whether we like it or not. It's one of the reasons that I got into this role to begin with. I love learning every day. And I was waiting for my child to come into this call, but
yeah, there you go.
So you can ask I better log off, Jack. There's 100 and something people on this call, but he decided he needed something in the room.
That's amazing. That's really good. Okay, I'm going to use that as a very good point to jump off here. I don't just unless Mike, you did have a comment to say on this actually, so I'll just let you share that.
Yeah, I was just going to make that point that tools are going to make being a generalist much more accessible and necessary. Yeah. I mean, the ideal is that the same person carries something as far as possible through the chain as they can, and that there's not breaks in the chain. Like every new role is a link in the chain, which means it's part of the chain that could break. And so in the future, I think the tools will facilitate generalists.
Yeah. They'll also reduce. I do think that the broad spectrum of tools and the more people adapt to having that testing model, that kind of startup testing, experimenting model, will mean that smaller organizations may have better profits because you're going to be able to do a lot more things faster and do far more testing and far more experimentation. I think we visited Cambridge University recently and they said they were able to test stuff 100 times quicker, which is pretty incredible.
Wow.
Grimshaw has just recently completed a new building in Cambridge, so it was an unreal architectural day out, which is another reason when you work for digital design and architecture, you still get project site visits, which is lovely. Yeah. That's the really lovely side. So you're not too far away from your traditional architectural approach. But so it really is a both. And so it seems like we're quite on the fence, but we are at the forefront of this role evolving with everything that's going on.
I agree. I agree we are. Yeah. And it's an incredibly exciting time, I think, but hugely challenging at the same time. But for the individuals that want to get engaged with this, there's great opportunity to really make a difference in the industry, either within the context side of things, building software, and we obviously work with lots of companies like that, with like Arcol doing that now, or actually in the industry as a professional, supporting architects, engineers, and construction professionals to move forward with what they do. Okay, I'm going to draw us to a close. Really appreciate your time, Mairéad, Mike, and obviously to Martin, who hasn't joined, who's had to leave a little early. And to Leo as well. I really appreciate all of your thoughts on that. So this has been recorded. It's going out on YouTube. It exists forever now, so people can catch up afterwards. If you want to download the resource, the link is on the screen, and be delighted to get feedback on that. It's a really great paper that we've put together. I would like to say thanks to Mike and the Arcol team to help us to actually put that together. It's been fantastic. Really enjoyed it, and we're looking for feedback on that. And obviously the aim is to make the industry better, move us forward. And like Mairéad says, the whole point of all of this is that we have a better built environment, great architecture, great buildings. That's the ambition behind all of this, is that, this technology should facilitate that. So thank you very much. I'm going to draw us to a close. Thank you again to everyone. And we've got more events lined up this year. We'll be doing workflow webinars, and they'll be announced pretty soon. But thank you again, and see you soon.
Thanks all.
Thanks.
Thanks.